What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for March 31st, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. Big show today. It is Phillies Home Opener day. Lots to get to, so let's get right into it. Start with some quick housekeeping notes. Today is the last day of March. That means it's our last day of our Women's Big Five Hall of Fame Spotlight. We'll close that out later in the show. And then for April, got kind of a mixed bag of things going on. We've been talking about Lenny Wagner and his book on Walter French. Anything you need about that is in the description. But the book, titled Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Age of Sports, is the story of Walter French. But as I mentioned, it's more than just that. It's also just what was going on in sports history at the time, the country's history. So it's a very entertaining read. You can get that wherever you get books. It's available on Audible. There's a link to Lenny's website in the description. But Lenny will also be doing a presentation and a book signing April 8th at the Mount Laurel Historical Society. I'm going to try to get out there to check Lenny out. But we're going to focus on Walter French over the next week. We'll do, starting tomorrow, look at his A's career as well as his professional football career, but just his story and what he has. And you guys know on here, I like to tell the story, excuse me, of the players, the era, and things like that. So Lenny Wagner, all the information you need. We'll be talking with him starting tomorrow. And then we did this last year, something similar, the Unfinished Business segment, where it was the teams that never won a title, whether they came up short in the championship, made the playoffs, beloved team, whatever it was. But the NFL Network does a show, Missing Rings. And the other day when we did the question of the day, the guy that, the Philly legend that you wish would have won a ring, we're going to take a look at players, coaches, groups of players that never won rings in their career and had a major impact in Philly. So we'll do that for a couple weeks, and then we'll close out April with the best draft picks per round for the Eagles in honor of the NFL draft. So we'll do a countdown starting with round 8 and above, work our way down to the top number 1 draft picks in Eagles history as we get ready for the NFL draft. So big month in April coming up. I have the golf trip, so we'll be on location up in the mountains. Phillies, Sixers, Flyers coming down the stretch, so we'll get all into that. But April's going to be a big month here on This Day in Philly Sports History. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and continue to spread the word. The YouTube channel is at Jimbo_Mont as well as we try to grow this thing. Good things are happening. I thank you for listening. But be sure to tune in to April and spread the word because we're going to have a lot of fun as the month goes on. All right, we'll start with some Eagles news. And I was at the Sixers game last night on purpose. But coming home, listening on the radio, apparently there was a report that came out on ESPN that the move to ban the Tush push is gaining a lot of momentum within the Rules Committee. Now, this is a different story than what was reported last week, but Stephen Jones, owner of the Cowboys, is, I guess, the head of the Rules Committee. And said, we need to take a look at this and make sure things are fair. And it does seem as though there's going to be a lot of support when they do the arguments. I guess they're going to present cases today, and the vote is tomorrow. And, I mean, it is what it is. At this point, I'm kind of so sick of hearing about it. But I do think it's kind of a bogus move to even have this vote because people can't stop it. But, I mean, it is what it is. And to me, if I was any team in the NFC, specifically in the NFC East, and knowing that you got to try to get a competitive edge, I would vote against it. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, the vote is tomorrow. I don't think it's going to impact the Eagles as much as everybody says it does because of the fact that Jalen Hurts is a beast when it comes to squatting, because the offensive line is so good. But we'll see what happens. That vote is tomorrow. But it is today's question of the day. Do you think the tush push will get banned tomorrow? Should it get banned? I mean, at this point, as an Eagles fan, yes, no way it should get banned. But if you really think about it logically, whether or not any of the Packers' arguments about pace of play and player safety are unfounded or just bogus BS, I would vote against it. If this was the Cowboys, I would do whatever I could to get a competitive advantage over one of my rivals. So will the tush push get banned tomorrow? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest. Now keep in mind, I think it's 24 out of the 32 teams have to vote against it. So I would assume you got two. The Eagles and Bills probably will vote against it. I don't know of any other teams that really run it. I don't know if like Sean Steichen and Jonathan Gannon would vote against it or for it, since Nick Sirianni basically came out and said, don't forget you have jobs because of the tush push. So it'll be an interesting thing. I don't think this stuff is broadcast or they'll show the meetings, but tomorrow is D-Day for the tush push, one way or the other. So what do you think? Will it get banned? Should it get banned? Give your thoughts on the tush push. I'm so sick of hearing it's not a football play. Like, and again, it does tie in with the Lenny Wagner book, because they do talk about the rules. The rules in the NFL are constantly evolving and changing. But to vote against something because a team does it well and you can't, seems a little weak to me. But give me your thoughts on the tush push. All right, the Final Four is set. All number one seeds, the chalkiest of chalk that ever chalked bracket this year. But that kicks off next week. But we do have some Big Five news. Villanova announced that they are hiring Kevin Willard as their new coach. Willard was the coach at Maryland, took them to the Sweet 16 this year. I'm not sure how I feel about this. And I'm anxious to see if there's any Nova people out there. What are your thoughts on Kevin Willard? I don't know if this is the splashy sort of hire that they need. I feel like the program itself is kind of in a do or die situation right now. Went from being in the Final Four to 3 years out of the tournament under Kyle Neptune. We'll see. Obviously, Villanova is a small school. However, I did see over the weekend, and I forget where I heard or read this, but they have a $7 million NIL fund, which I guess when you have your like a ton of guys from your Final Four teams playing in the NBA, they're going to donate. So I don't know if that's part of the reason why Kevin Willard decided to go to Nova, because I'm not sure if I'd leave the Big Ten to go to Nova in the Big East unless he's looking at this as a stepping stone as well, which again would not be good for Villanova. So if you're a Nova person, what are your thoughts on Kevin Willard? Like I said, it's not, to me, I'd just be like, I mean, yes, he's done well at turning programs around and getting them to the tournament, but this is the furthest he's ever been this year when he took Maryland to the Sweet 16. So I don't know. It doesn't necessarily move the needle to me or for me, but let me know your thoughts if you're a Nova person, especially if they do have $7 million in NIL money. They could bring some guys in. So I don't know. Kevin Willard going to Nova doesn't move the needle for me, but what do I know? I'm a Nova hater. All right, Phillies. I mentioned home opener today. Weather permitting, there are supposed to be a line of strong thunderstorms coming through right after the game starts. So we'll see what they decide to do with that. They take on the Rockies. Cristopher Sanchez is on the mound. Tough one yesterday for the Phils. Aaron Nolan gave up 2 home runs. Did have 8 strikeouts as the Phils lose 5-1 to the Nationals. For Aaron Nola, same story though. Home runs. Led the National League last year. Already off to a start where he's given up 2 home runs this year. However, the key takeaway from yesterday's game is they did win a series. And at the end of the day, if you win 2 out of every 3, you're going to be in the postseason. So Phils Rockies this afternoon from Citizens Bank Park, weather permitting. All right, I did mention I went to the Sixers game last night, had an opportunity to sit in a box with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. pretty cool. Dr. J came into the box, got to meet him. Very nice guy. But the play on the court, the Sixers ran out their 51st different starting lineup of the season last night. They lost 127-109 to the Raptors. Literally nobody played. I think they had 9 guys that they could dress. But the key takeaway here is with 7 games left, they all but have wrapped up going into the lottery with that 6th pick. Now, a lot's going to be determined whether or not they can move up, if other teams move up. So the key here is to lose as many of these remaining 7 games as possible. They're one game up on the Nets right now for the 5th spot. They're only 2 games behind for the 4th spot. And they're 5 up with 7 to play for 7. So it seems as though they're pretty much locked in, barring like a crazy winning streak. But again, lose as many as you can over the next 7. But yeah, being in the box was nice. Meeting Dr. J was nice. Watching the game, not so much. Flyers return to action tonight down at the Wells Fargo Center to take on the Nashville Predators. Will the dead cat bounce continue? Mishkov has 4 goals in 2 games since John Tortorella was fired. Will he continue and make that last push to kind of separate himself for Rookie of the Year? It's about all we got left with the Flyers. Be sure to check out my friends over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Lots of great things going on with their sports fan network. Go to clashingconferences.com to get information on what they have to offer to see how you can get involved. Their podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And then, of course, Philly Goat. It's home opener day. Do some Philly shopping. Get the fans. They have all kinds of great Philly stuff. Like I said, the fans, though, second to none. Get a golf shirt, the partnership they have with Double Bogey Down. It's very nice material. Looking forward to wearing that in a couple weeks for the golf trip. But all of that is available on phillygoat.com. Be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, today, in honor of the Phillies Home Opener, kind of having around the Phillies today. And the Phillies have opened up the season on March 31st 4 times in their history. First was in 1998. Curt Schilling took the mound for the Phils, pitched 8 scoreless innings, only gave up 2 hits, struck out 9. But the Phillies lose it in 14 innings to the New York Mets, 1-0 in walk-off fashion. I believe at one point this was the record for longest scoreless game in opening day history, going scoreless for 13 2/3 innings. But on this day in 1998, it was Phillies losing to the Mets 1-0 in 14 to open up that season. And then fast forward to 2003, the Phillies scored 5 in the 3rd inning to beat the Marlins 8-5 to open up the season. Jim Thome goes 3 for 4 with a double in his first game with the Phillies. And then they just those teams were marred with disappointment, just getting so close, but like not being able to get there. And then this one might come as a surprise. 5 years later, in 2008, Phillies lose to the Nationals 11-6 to open up the season. Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley each has home runs. However, we know how that turned out. Tom Gordon was not good out of the bullpen that day. And I always forget that the Phillies started off the 2008 season 0-1. And then finally, the fireworks were out in Texas. In 2014, Phillies beat the Rangers 14-10. Cliff Lee, starting for the Phillies that day, gave up 8 earned runs on opening day. Jimmy Rollins had a homer and 4 RBI. Marlon Byrd had a home run. And Cody Ashing finished the scoring off for the Phils with a home run. He went 3 for 4 with a home run and a double. So the Phils, 4-3 all-time on this day, March 31st. They opened up the season in 98 with a loss. They opened up 2003 with a win. 2008 with a loss, 2014 with a win, and now that the Major League Baseball is opening the season a little earlier, they've played a few times on this date. Let's go out there and beat the Rockies today and make it 5-3 all time on March 31st. But on this day, Phils opened the season 4 times, 2-2 in Major League season openers, 5-3 all time on this date. But like I said, Cristopher Sanchez, I look to you to make it 5-3. And then finally today, our final Women's Big Five Hall of Fame spotlight is on Susan Moran. She played from St. Joe's from 1998 to 2002. She helped lead the Hawks to 2 NCAA tournaments, the Atlantic 10 Championship in 1999. She was 4-time All-Big Five and All-Atlantic 10. She was the Atlantic 10 Student Athlete of the Year and an Academic All-American in 2002. You know how that makes me feel. Love the Academic All-American. She was an honorable mention All-American for her play on the court that year. Started all 122 games during her college career. Led the Hawks in scoring and rebounding all 4 years. She is currently the all-time leading scorer in St. Joe's Hawk history. She was inducted into the St. Joe's Hall of Fame in 2010, Big Five Hall of Fame in 2009. She was a part of the Atlantic 10 inaugural Legends class, which is essentially their Hall of Fame. Her number is retired, one of 2 numbers to be retired by the St. Joe's Hawks. She played in both the WNBA and in Europe professionally when she was done. Came back and was a long-time assistant for the St. Joe's Hawks. She's a native of Ireland and played for the Irish national team and is in the Irish Basketball Hall of Fame as well. So Susan Moran, one of the best to ever do it, not only in St. Joe's history, but Big Five history. You are today's Women's Big Five Hall of Fame spotlight as we end the month out with a bang. You know how they always say, March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb? Well, we're going out like a lion today, spotlighting Susan Moran from St. Joe's and an Academic All-American to boot, and you know how I feel about that. So Susan Moran, shout out to you, today's Women's Big Five Hall of Fame spotlight. Phillies opened up the season 4 different times on this day. 1998, 2003, 2008, and 2014. Kind of a mixed bag. Lots of scoring, minus that 98 game. Some questionable pitching by some of the best to ever do it. Cliff Lee giving up 8 earned runs on opening day is just unheard of. I think that was when we kind of knew in 2014 the dream was over. That whole golden era of Phillies baseball ended. But Phillies Rockies this afternoon from Citizens Bank Park. Let's make it 5-3 today. Cristopher Sanchez, what do you say? All right, be sure to let me know your thoughts on the Tush Push. Should it be banned? Will it be banned? Does it even matter? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Excited to start our showing clips from the interview with Lenny Wagner tomorrow. We're going to start, like I said, 3 days worth of Walter French's career with the A's, and then 3 days on his professional football career. And again, even in this interview with Lenny, you learn more than just about Walter French. You kind of learn a little bit about the history of the NFL, history of Major League Baseball. And if you're a history person, you're going to love this book. So go check out Lenny's book, Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Era of Sports, available wherever you get your books, as well as on Audible. Like I said, I love listening to books when I go on a walk or even sometimes when I'm driving. So this one will definitely keep your interest. So go support Lenny, learn something about Walter French, and satisfy your thirst for history. All right, this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for March 31st, 2025, last day of March. Hard to believe, Harry, hard to believe. Go have yourselves a Monday. My name's Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.